Good afternoon, Justice Warriors. Tracey and I are back and stronger than ever. I want to apologize for ghosting you for so long. The truth is that I took some pretty hard hits last year, but I feel that the Lord is calling me to get back up and walk with confidence, knowing that He is with us. He has assigned us with an important mission to speak the truth and to be a voice for the voiceless and to lead others out of captivity or fear. That has always been our mission, and it isn't over yet. So for this episode, we are going to discuss some updates in the Crystal Rogers case. Crystal's been missing since July 3rd, 2015, when her vehicle was discovered on the side of the Bluegrass Parkway. Her boyfriend and child's father, Brooks Houck, was the last to see her alive. He claimed that when he went to bed the night before, Crystal was up playing video games, but when he woke the next morning, she was gone. However, during questioning by Detective Snow, Brooks's brother Nick Houck interrupted him with what appeared to be a scheduled call and told him to stop answering questions and leave. For the past 8 years, Crystal's family has been tormented by the Houck family, with Brooks making snide comments to Sherry, Crystal's mother, when he would see her around town, and even dealing with Justice for Crystal Rogers signs being ripped out of yards and destroyed. Then, a year and 4 months later, on November 19, 2016, Crystal's father, Tommy Ballard, was murdered while hunting on his property. There have been so many instances over the past few years that we have thought that we were close to an arrest. There were FBI raids and intense searches of property owned by Brooks Houck, and then silence. Just when we were starting to lose hope, they finally made an arrest. Last month, Joseph Lawson was arrested for tampering with evidence and conspiracy. Joseph is the son of Steve Lawson, who was an employee of Brooks Houck and happened to be somebody who Detective Snow had questioned Brooks about in the infamous video that leaked to YouTube years ago. In that interview, Snow asked Brooks about a call that he had received from Steve in the middle of the night just before Crystal went missing. Brooks and Steve seemed to have already discussed what they would say because they offered a half-cocked story that Lawson had called him to ask him about a rental house. But Snow was too quick on his toes for Brooks, because when Houck claimed that he told Steve that he would call Crystal and have her call him back, Snow came back with, well, why would you have to call her if she was sitting right next to you? Oopsies, looks like Brooks wasn't as clever as he thought, but guess who else wasn't so clever? Brooks's brother Nick, who was at the time working for the police department. We recently learned at Brooks Houck's arraignment that Nick allegedly sold the gun, believed to have been the murder weapon that killed Tommy Ballard, to an undercover FBI agent. It looks like Judgment Day is coming early for the Houck family. And I say family because the judge called out 5 Houck family members at the arraignment for recording the grand jury meeting, which is illegal in Kentucky. There were a lot of things said in our recent interview with Lex 18 that didn't make it on air, so I'm going to say it right here because guess what? This is the Justice Warriors podcast, and we don't censor the truth here. The fact of the matter is that this case, like so many others, was hindered by small-town politics. That's the real reason why Miss Ballard has had to wait so long to get justice for her daughter and husband. Crystal's case didn't stand a chance of being solved until the FBI and the state police stepped in. So with that said, hey, Crystal. Hey, Tracey. I just called you Crystal, sorry. Hey, Tracey, why don't you tell us because I didn't know about the hearing today and you brought it to my attention. So why don't you tell us about that? You're on mute.
You can tell it's been a while since we've done this.
Okay.
The hearing was not today. It was last week. It was the judge's decision came down today.
Oh, that's what I was talking about. Sorry. Yeah.
and it was to reduce the bond. The bond is set at 10 million. The defense for Brooks gave many reasons as to why this should be so. However, the judge sided with the prosecution, or what do they call it? Something different in Kentucky. I don't remember.
Commonwealth.
Commonwealth. And or whichever, they decided with whoever was prosecuting the
He said
case.
no. He said, hell no. No,
The judge, that's what the judge said.
hell to the no.
Due to Nick's, which you just mentioned, and due to the family's interference and other things going on, and the fact that Brooks is estimated to have enough money to cover a $10 million bond.
Right.
And it's not a 10% of 10 million, it's $10 million bond.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was denied today.
You know, I was thinking about that. You know, he has, obviously he has a lot of money. He's a wealthy man. He owns a lot of properties. He builds houses, and I think that maybe in cases like this, that the prosecution is a little slower to make arrests and put charges on people that have that much money, because they know that they're going to have the means to hire a good attorney, and it's going to be harder for them to get a prosecution versus somebody that doesn't have money and is just going to end up with a public defender. And not to say that all public defenders are crappy, but somebody like Brooks is going to be able to afford like the best of the best,
and several attorneys, not just one.
Like the David Rabins and the Steve Farises of the world, like the big guys, the heavy hitters, the ones that don't often lose. So I mean, it makes sense that I understand that they had to make sure that they had enough, a solid case before they arrest him. But at the same time, it just seems like a lot of the things that should have been done or could have been done earlier to obtain the evidence that they needed, it just seems like the ball was dropped a lot. And I'll, off the top of my head, I can think of one instance where that happened, and that was, I know we had, I won't talk about specifics, but we were privy to some evidence that somebody had brought to the family and said, hey, you know, this is here, and you know, you might want to have law enforcement look into it. And the family tried to get law enforcement to look into it, and by the time that they were able to secure the search warrant and get there to look for it, it was already gone, because it took him too long to get there. And
now I don't want to blame law enforcement, because I know, yes, they seem like, I'm going to be the devil's advocate here. They seem,
oh God, please don't use that term.
I'll
never hear that term again. It will be, no, don't.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, let's another word.
No devil advocating. We are not advocates for the devil.
No, we are not.
But I get what you're saying. Just for argument's sake.
Yeah, the money. Because as far as when we were looking at things, we can't, if we don't have a client that has the money, you don't have the client that had the money, we couldn't do certain things. We couldn't get people in to do this or do that. And I think county agencies and city agencies are restricted by money a lot of times.
Resources, money, a lot of times. And you know, this makes me think of another case I just recently became privy to. But you know, they'll often say to the victim's family, you know, this isn't our only case. And I remember, when we first stepped into the Raquel Jackson case in Louisville, that
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
original detective that was on that case, and apparently they passed around that case quite a bit and had been through many, many hands. But when we first stepped in, that first detective was actually happy that we were there. And I remember him saying to me, like, we welcome you and we're glad that you're going to take the time to take a look at this, because, we've got a stack a mile high of cases that we can't get to.
And that was what, a 27-year case at that point?
Exactly. And they just never really had the chance. It never made it to the top of the stack. And which is sad, because it was a pregnant woman that was brutally murdered. And you would think that that would be top priority, but it was just the murders kept coming, the cases kept coming, and they didn't have the manpower or the resources to make it through every case the way
And
they.
they actually had to take the two departments and combine them, and then got rid of a lot of people. So it was really, really, really hard. And so remember that when you get upset about.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like when it's your loved one, I mean, that's got to be frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is, like, me as an investigator, it's so hard for me to, especially when they don't have the money. It's so hard for me to take money from victims' families, in situations like this, which is why a lot of times I end up working them for free, um, or for, seriously discounted prices.
Or when the money runs out, you continue.
Yeah,
It's
right. I'm
usually what
like,
happens.
and
Yeah.
that's exactly right, because I've had people give me money, and then it runs out, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't." And I'm like, "I'm not gonna just abandon you now. I can't do that." So, um, but with Crystal's case, there was just so much, and I wanted to us, we can talk about, because we know firsthand some of the things that the Hauk family was doing to interfere, and some of the things that they were doing to intimidate, and they were just awful. They were just absolute tyrants. There was uh, how sorry, Crystal's sister Brooke one time was driving, I believe, to school, and she had to turn around to get her laptop, and she lived in the same vicinity as the house, their farm, and she came to the stop sign, and Brooks's father pulled up behind her and seemingly intentionally rear-ended her, and then jumped out of his car and proceeded to yell at her. And I believe this is before her father was killed, because if I remember correctly from what she told me, I believe it was that he was telling her, if your father's got something to say to me, he can say it to my face. He knows where to find me, blah, 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 because the Ballards were always very verbal. They were never shy about expressing who they believed killed their daughter, or, and uh so, um and then there was actually a billboard, which I don't remember who funded the billboard, but it said, "Brooks Hauk, where is Crystal Rogers?" So most of the town was always very supportive of the Ballard family.
Yeah, the Ballard family did not condone this. However, their people would drive by another area in the town that had some of the Hauk family members, and they'd go by and just
Oh, I remember that.
several car, like a train. They finally, the Ballards did ask everybody to please stop doing that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
they would make I want to say, wasn't it like every year on the day she disappeared,
Yeah, and they honk and
they would put together a caravan of cars, and they would
correct,
all drive
correct.
by and
Mhm.
honk and yell out the window, and so it was no secret in that town, and it had to have been scary for a lot of people too, to and Brooks would, I know, Crystal's uncle, Sammy, got into a heated altercation with Brooks at, I believe, Lowe's once, and Brooks would make snide comments to Crystal's mother, Sherry, when he would see her out.
And a friend of Crystal's got into a altercation
With Brooks'
Brooks'
new girlfriend.
new woman. I
Yeah.
don't know if she's married or not to him, but her name Crystal also, so we call her Crystal 2.
Yeah.
Um,
Number 2 suiting.
number 2. Yeah.
Shit.
So and there had been fights between her and people, and she's the one that was arrested for stealing the signs.
Right. Yep. And then there's that. And then there's that Brooks's new girlfriend, Crystal 2, got arrested for ripping the Justice for Crystal and standing with the Ballard signs out of people's yards and destroying them. So it's just, they were never compassionate to the Ballards. They were just absolutely awful. And well, and then, you know, Tommy, being murdered, I mean, I don't think there's any reason not to say it. They fucking killed Tommy. They did. He was getting too close. He was not going to stop until he found his daughter. He was not going to stop until they were arrested. And they knew he was their biggest threat. So they just did away with that problem.
And in my opinion, they also have the third victim of Jason Ellis.
Right. But Jason was before Tommy, though.
But shot
He was
off.
before Crystal.
He was shot off the Bluegrass Parkway
in
the dark. His was like early morning after getting off of work, because he worked as an officer also. And Tommy's was early in the morning when they were getting ready to go turkey hunting.
Yep.
So it was, you know, still, and it wasn't that far apart. It's not that, it's odd that it happened the same way. And I have a feeling if they can get Tommy, maybe they'll be able to get a
conviction for Jason as well. I think that Jason's family is kind of holding on to hope for that too, because there's been, you know, since they started making the arrests in Crystal's case, there's been some more appearances from them, and it seems to be, it seems like kind of like the Murdaugh murders, that it seems like, you know, there may be a sort of domino effect in this, like there was in that case also. And there's a lot of similarities. I think, you know,
it's similarities in all towns that have a family group that maintains a hold over that town, because they've been there so long, or
the economic
because
status,
they have the money,
the political status.
They're in everything, you know. They're in the law enforcement, they're in the justice system, they're in the whatever's going on.
Let's think about some other similarities too, and that is that the Houcks, like the Murdaughs and like some others that I can think about off the top of my head, it seems like they also always seem to be very involved in the investigation. They're just right up in the middle of it. Like they're trying to control the direction, or they're just, and they're cocky. They're cocky. There's no, you know, you can just, they have no thought or concern whatsoever that they're going to be investigated or that they're going to be arrested.
If they wouldn't have they wouldn't have done it in the first place if they weren't that way, because these aren't crimes of passion. These aren't something that just occurred. There was a little bit of planning to went into this, premeditation, a little bit of planning went into a lot of these.
Well, on that note, let's talk about motive. Let's go into that. That's something
you don't have to prove a case in a court of law,
right? But we got, I mean, but we've got a good idea what the motive was, and you know, that was something else that we had talked about with Lex 18 that didn't make it on.
Well, he had 2 minutes. He had to
Yeah,
write it down. It
yeah, to
it
condense
wasn't
it.
their fault. Yeah.
Right, right. But he had said, you know, we want to hear something we haven't already heard. And then he didn't use any of the stuff that we said that he hadn't heard. He ended up putting the same old on.
Yeah.
But motive. Okay, so go.
I believe it's financial. Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe it's a financial motive. I believe there was paperwork because Crystal Rogers took care of Brooks's paperwork and
His books, his
his
financial books.
leases, yes. And she, from a source that we know,
Mhm.
had said she was going to move out.
Yeah.
And so it was advised, well, maybe should copy all the paperwork. So when it comes down time for child support, possibly
Mhm.
that.
She would have the records, right? And you know, I think it's
Now, what did she ever copy them? It sounds like she did, but no one actually knew for sure where those copies were. However, Crystal did have a
storage locker.
this is, yeah, right. And this is all alleged. This is all alleged, a storage locker. And it's fact that the FBI went in and got a bunch of documents.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we got that information from one of Crystal's best friends, and you know, when Snow is asking Brooks about their relationship, and Brooks is acting like, oh yeah, we fight, but we always move on, and no, we weren't breaking up, and no, there, you know, there wasn't trouble on the home front and whatever. Well, we happen to know otherwise. That, you know, from our source, Crystal was planning to leave, and she was actually looking at an apartment.
She had, right, right. There was an apartment over. She was given, this is another alleged, however we want to say it. She was asked to come back and manage a convenience store, and the owner had a spare apartment type place on top of the convenience store, and she was going to live there and manage the store underneath. I mean, that was a scenario that was talked through. I don't know if she was going to do that. However, that was something out there. And so yeah, so
But I think, you know, for Nick to get involved the way that he got involved, and you know, I mean, I know that it looks like he was more involved in Tommy's murder. I don't know if he's the actual person that murdered Tommy. I think he probably is.
so do I.
We know that he was a professional sniper. We know that they were very, very good at at shooting at
And I
target.
think they even made their own bullets.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They loaded
Shells,
their own,
yeah.
they loaded their own bullets. From what I recall, the gun that we believe was used was a blackout. And that gun, I can't remember. I don't know the numbers of how far it can shoot and whatever, but it's a sniper gun, and I know that it can. It's so powerful it can shoot through walls.
Now, I have another question on, but I just lost it. It was there and then it went. It was back to, oh yeah, with Nick. The reason I think is because whatever was on that paperwork was about the entire family.
Right.
And have involved an entire family, and that is why this big.
Well, what I was getting ready to say is I think it's important to note that when the FBI raided Nick Houck's grandmother's house, that the IRS was there as well. And why would the IRS be involved in a murder investigation? So I think that is a huge clue as to what's going on here. But I also wonder if she may not have also been a liability because they may have been concerned that she had some information about Jason Ellis. So, you know, it's I think that when the whole family jumps in to take care of a problem like that, then it's probably a pretty big problem that that they're having to take care of. I can't hear you.
I think Jason Ellis had the same, got the same information Crystal did. I think it's paperwork. I think it's all whatever happened, because Nick says in the interview that I posted, I forgot which one of Nick's interviews on our page. He says that out of nowhere, for no reason, they ask what shift he works, and he says, "Oh, I work the midnight shift, the same one that Jason Ellis did."
Yeah.
It's like, why did you say that in the middle of an interview for no reason? Why?
Right. Right.
So
Well,
I believe that he was first, and then Crystal found out about pretty much the same thing that Jason found out, but maybe more, and
mhm,
had actual copies of it, may not even have known what she had in her hand.
right.
And because she was just looking for child support, you know, and
But we don't know that. We
no,
don't know
we don't.
that.
That
Maybe there was more to it than just child support.
maybe there
I,
was.
I tend to think bigger sometimes, and like, it
Well,
just
that could be it, though. I sometimes don't think big enough.
right. Well, with all that said, I just want to remind everybody to keep the Ballards, keep Sherry in your prayers. Sherry is the strongest woman I know. She is just absolutely an amazing person. Her heart is so big. I just went and visited her a couple weeks before the arrests started coming, and she's just still such a light. I mean, it's amazing to me that her light has not burnt out, and I know that what drives her day to day is getting justice for her family. I want to share something funny though. So when I was in Bardstown recently, and I let her know, I said, "Hey, I'm in Bardstown." I said, "Do you want to meet me for lunch?" And she said, "No." She said, she's about to attend a birthday party and she didn't really have time, but she was like, "Do you want to stop by and see me for a few minutes?" She said, "Just come by the house." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, I really want to, you know, bring you something. I want to stop and get something for you." I said, um, what kind of wine do you like?" I said, let me stop and get you a bottle of wine." Actually, I was at Bullets, which they make their wine. It's amazing. A little free promo for Bullets. Bullets wine is so good. The rosé is to die for. But she says, "Oh no." She says, "I don't drink." She said, "I'm afraid if I start, I'll never stop." Bless her heart, she's so sweet. But
She is. She's a very sweet person.
but I did
So
stop.
anybody saying anything about her
Oh no,
is full of it.
I don't think anybody could say anything bad about that woman. She is
No,
just,
I meant the house, the house scene.
oh, fuck them. I don't care. I don't, does anybody care? Another thing that's funny, I've done some work for a law office in Elizabethtown, and it's a criminal defense office. And I was sitting in their office the other day, and I said, "I'm surprised y'all didn't end up with the Brooks House case." And he said, "We wouldn't touch that case." He said, "We would not even touch that case." And I said, "Oh, good for you." And he said, I was talking to the attorney. He said, my wife showed me a meme or something. I didn't actually see it, so I'm describing it secondhand, but I thought it was funny, so I want to share. But he said it's circulating around Facebook, and it says something about Kentucky is divided in everything, politics, blah blah blah, goes down this list. It says, "But the one thing all Kentuckians agree with is that Brooks House did it." I said, "God, that's awful." Well,
And beyond. And
yeah,
beyond.
yeah, yeah. So that's I
Now,
think
I'm sorry. to continue supporting the Ballards, there is also, I'll link it to, on our
Facebook page.
Facebook page,
Mhm.
Justice Warriors Facebook page, a link for the shirts, and the shirts will go and help support the Ballards during the time of having to go to court and all those expenses that are involved in court. At the moment, Brooks is being held in Hardin County, not Nelson County.
This is where I stay. Ooh.
So he's being held over there. So
Yeah.
sometimes there's traveling. So, and expenses that come up with that. So if you want to stand and support the Ballards, we will have the little website for the shirts of where you can go, or the number you can call to get a shirt.
All right, guys. Pray for Sherry Ballard, pray for Casey and the whole family, and for Crystal's children. Keep them in your prayers. And it won't be so long until we put out our next podcast, because like I said, we're back and God is calling me to get up, brush myself off, and get back out there, because I'm not done doing God's work. So we love you and take care. Bye.
Bye.